Well, in this lesson we're now going to talk further about online advertising, and we're going to be getting into much more refined advertising. I like to refer to it as marketing like a ninja, because it is so clever at what you can do and how you can actually zoom in and home in on the advertisers and the target clients that you want to reach. So how do we do this? Well, in the last lesson we told you about installing the Facebook Pixel on your website, and this is crucial to being able to, the ability to market this way. The Facebook uses Pixel to actually track when someone visits your site, and then also what pages they visit on your site. And even if you've got any kind of checkout system on your site, say for example you sell gift vouchers and you've got an automated checkout commerce system on your website, they can even track when sales were completed, or somebody put something in a basket, added a gift voucher in the basket and they abandoned it, never completed it. Facebook can track all that kind of information. So we can use this data basically to help our advertising. It also tracks ad performance, so you can see how your ads are doing, what ads are working for you and what aren't, and that's what we call A/B testing. I did mention it briefly in the last lesson. I'd like to get into a bit more detail on why you really need to A/B test your adverts. The concept of A/B testing, or basically running variations on your ads, is to see what works best and to save you money. Because you could be running an advert that's completely ineffective, not realise it, you just think, this advert's not doing as good as I thought. Where if you'd done a slight variation of it and ran a test on that same advert, just maybe with the text changed or an image changed, you might see a big difference. You've always got to be careful with variations, not change it too much so you can actually figure out what's working and what isn't. If you change the whole ad and run two variations, yeah, sure, you know what the better ad is, but you're not really fine-tuning that individual advert itself, so bear that in mind. You need to run these variations for a few days to actually get proper statistics. You can't just run it for a day and see what happens. I generally would leave it 3-4 days anyway, right? Now you might think, oh, but I'm going to lose money on the adverts that aren't working over those 3 days. Well, that's true, but technically you're actually saving yourself money because you're figuring out what's gone wrong very, very quickly in the process, rather than waiting till you've had an advert running for a week, 30 days, whatever, and you realise this advert's not working at all. And then of course, once you know what adverts working and what isn't, you can switch off the variations that aren't working and gain a better return on investment on that ad campaign. So to let you see an example, we ran a series of ads for our SEO audit tool on Facebook, and we did 4 different advert variations based on the image. And one had just an image of a bloke, a male, one an image of a female, one was an image of a kid drawing a message on the blackboard, and another one a kid holding up a little sign. And this one was actually the best performing by far it was that one with the kid's drawing on the blackboard. And the worst performing, believe it or not, was also a kid just holding up a sign like that. So it's so interesting to see what the differences are, where the slight tweaks in the adverts can make such a huge difference. So this is why it's so important to do A/B testing on your adverts. So we can also use Facebook Pixel, the data that it gathers, to execute actual laser focusing campaign to people who have already visited certain pages of your site. Now, you've probably seen this type of advertising before. You've maybe not been aware of how it's actually executed, but it's all done via the Facebook Pixel. So you're maybe browsing a product online, you visit a site, and next time you're on Facebook, you see adverts for that very same product you were looking at. And you think, are these guys spying on me or something? How did they know that I was on that site a few minutes ago or a couple of hours ago? And that's exactly how they know, because they're using the Facebook Pixel to track your activity on their website. So you visit a particular product, you don't go and buy it, that advertiser then has an advertising campaign running which says anybody that visits this page on this site but doesn't go ahead and make a sale on it, I'm going to what's called retargeting. I'm going to retarget that user with an advert for that product again, because I know they were interested in it, they spent time on the product page, but they didn't buy it, so they're still interested, so I'm going to advertise them. That's laser focused advertising. It's the best advertising you can do, actually. The return on investment in this is incredible, right? Because rather than advertising to a broad range of people that you don't know is interested in a product, you can just advertise to the people that you know are interested in your product. So how can we use that as photographers then? Well, this is, amazingly, this is one of the best kept secrets in photography in terms of advertising. I did a survey on our Marketing for Photographers marketing group on Facebook, and only 32% of the photographers on there had even heard of it, and only 9% actually use it. So think about the competitive advantage you're going to have over other photographers if you can master this. It would absolutely skyrocket the performance of your Facebook advertising, I can assure you, because if you're running these adverts, retargeting adverts alongside your other advertising campaigns, you'll find the cost of the retargeting is so low, because you're not, I mean, on a general campaign, if you think about it, you're maybe having to put out a number of impressions of your advert to a lot of people during the day, and the people that are interested will click, so you're only getting so much per click. Where these ones, you know that the person that you're sending it to is more than likely going to click this because they do have an interest in it. So you get much better return on investment. So how do we do this? Well, if you go into Facebook Business Suite again, like we showed you before, just go into All Tools, go to Audiences, and we're going to create a custom audience again. Maybe we did that in the last lesson, where we were fine-tuning the audience that we were going to present our advert to. We were setting it up to be, in my case, it was a certain age demographic in a certain area, and they had certain interests. It's a similar thing here, but this time we're going to create a customer audience, and the source for the audience is actually our own website, right? Because you've got the Facebook pixel on your website, so what's been happening, since you've installed it, say you installed it a couple of weeks ago, since you've installed it, Facebook is gathering the Facebook IDs, which is basically your email address if you like, Facebook IDs of the people who have visited your website, and they maintain that in a database. So you're going to get that data and create this custom audience for it, and the source of that data is your website, right? So that's step one. But we get even cleverer now, right? So we've got this bunch of people who have visited our website, but we want to only, say we're targeting for a wedding, we only really want to target people who have visited certain pages on our website related to weddings, because you may be a wedding and portrait photographer, or somebody's just been visiting your own page. You actually really want people who have shown a specific interest and have went so far in your website enough for you to say, these people are interested in me, right? I know they're interested, they're definitely looking for a wedding photographer. So that's how you focus it in. So you can set the event here to only be a specific web page. Now there's a retention period, how long you store this for. I store it for about 60 days because the wedding planning process can be a bit protracted. It can stretch out a few months. So they may have looked at you a couple of months back. So you want to maintain that data for a little bit longer than normal. So you're going to set the parameters, you set the URL to equals, and you paste in the page of your site that would indicate they definitely have an interest in your wedding photography. For example, your portfolio, or you've maybe got a wedding landing page that you use. And I always recommend landing pages. If you're ever doing adverts and you want to target people for a wedding, you take them to a landing page. Because I'll digress briefly for a moment and talk about landing pages, because it is an important topic. When somebody visits your site for say you've advertised and you've got a general advert out there like we created in the last lesson, it takes them to your homepage. Well, what's on your homepage? Now, if you're just a wedding photographer, that's fine, it's focused, but there's buttons, there's options to click everywhere. click my about box, go to my contact info, look at my portfolio, look at the blogs. It's just a wall of stuff that's right in front of your customer. And it can sometimes just overwhelm your client and just confuse them. And a confused mind always says no. That's quite a famous quote by a guy in the internet marketing industry whose name escapes me at this point. But a confused mind will always generally say no. So you want to remove confusion when you're presenting something to a customer. So I always recommend when your advert should take someone to a landing page, which is specifically a result of that advert. So you know what you were advertising. I'm advertising my wedding photography service. I'm taking to a landing page that says, right, you're looking for a wedding photographer, bang, 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 and you lead them on that journey like we showed you before. So you're not confusing them with your home page, where we've got lots of different options. You take them to a landing page, which is just another page on your website, but specifically focused. So what the information they get is purely about the solution that they're looking for, which is to hire a wedding photographer. So, back to what we're talking about. So, say we had that landing page, so I'm going to set in my new advert, my retargeting advert, if somebody's visited that landing page, I know they're interested in my wedding photography, right? So we create this new audience, we set the URL to my landing page in the custom audience, and we give it a name, right? I'll call it wedding page site visitors. And you can give that a description. You can describe remind yourself of the URL you set, for example, just in the description. It's just to help you when you're looking at the data on the dashboard. It will warn you there's a very small audience, because it could only be half a dozen people, right, at this point. That doesn't matter. And it will take a little while, if you're setting this up new, it'll say the audience isn't ready yet. It'll take maybe a week or so for it to gather enough data to tell you that audience is ready. So you set up this audience and you leave it for a couple of weeks before you can actually start to advertise to it. So you'll get a message like that saying your custom audience is created, right? And now what do you want to do? As I say, we would wait a couple of weeks for that audience data to populate, and then we're going to create an advert. Now the process to create the advert is the exact same process I showed you in the last lesson, right? But instead of the audience we used previously, you're going to select this new custom audience, which is based on the people who visited that particular page of your website. Now, because you know they've visited a page on your website, you can change the language of that advert. So you can say things like, still deciding on a wedding photographer? Or inquire today for a free pre-wedding shoot. So you're taking them a step further, right? Previously they were looking at you just inquiring about your wedding. Now you can say, look, inquire about a pre-wedding shoot because I know you're involved in, you're looking for a wedding photographer. The cost for these will be minimal just because of the small number of adverts that are actually delivered from this, right? Because it may only be at any one time a dozen people, right? But that's like you having the ability to knock on that person's door and say, hi, I'm that wedding photographer you were looking at a couple of weeks ago on the web. Can I tell you more about my service? And that's exactly what this does, and it's fantastic. So this is laser focused, and it's the best return in the industry. And as I say, only about 10%, less than 10% of photographers even know this. So you've got such a competitive advantage. And of course, we can extend this process into a little campaign of adverts, right? So the first ad, you think about it, is we're going back to the beginning. So in the previous lesson, we create our first ad, which is just a general advert about your wedding photography. It's targeted at people of a certain age, certain demographic, in a certain area with certain interests, all related to weddings, and they're engaged, right? So that's your first advert. That's going to take them to your landing page. Your second advert is now going to be targeted to those people who visited that landing page, and it becomes a follow-up ad, right? That's going to take them to another landing page, right? Because there's a step on in the sales process for where they were before. You're now going to take them to a new page. You can tell them a bit more about yourself. Why should they book Alan Hutchison as a wedding photographer, right? Then you can do a third one. If people that visited the second ad, and it becomes more of a closing advert, right? Check availability now. You know, our diary is filling up for 2023. Check availability now, only 6 weekends left available, that kind of thing. You could use the kind of scarcity type of call out to make them think that it's a fear of missing out, the FOMO, fear of missing out, that they make them want to follow that advert up and check your availability. And remember, the psychology of using the words check availability means that they've already subconsciously selected you as their wedding photographer. Other advertising campaigns you can do, you hear of things going viral. Well, of course, you can never predict what's going to go viral, but you can help it along a bit, right? Viral campaigns, you've usually got a very small advert campaign to just start to raise engagement levels, but how you construct a viral campaign is making sure it's something that people are going to get involved in. We did this every year. I mentioned it briefly before. We did a Bride of the Year competition every January, and we offered a 30 by 20 frame as the star prize. That star prize went to the bride, the couple themselves that won it. And also we had prizes for the people who were commenting and voting. So we would get people to comment and like the photos. So we post up whatever 30 odd photos from the previous year's weddings. People who were running our Bride of the Year competition. Now you can use a Facebook application to do this, and we did that. We usually found that was the most successful way of doing it. If you've really got the company we used doesn't do it anymore, so that's why I can't really suggest anything to you. But if you Google competition applications for Facebook, there's lots out there, and it makes it easy to track how many people are liking and sharing it. And you can actually say that to get an entry in this competition, you get one entry if you like something, you get another entry if you comment, you get another entry if you share. And these apps can track that kind of information. They're really, really good. So because it's the bride and groom themselves that are trying to win this competition, well, what happens? Well, they share this with all their friends and family. So you've got potentially 30, 40 wedding couples for the previous year who are going to share this, they're going to share the shit out of this, right? And we've had something like 36,000 views on one particular Bride of the Year competition we did. That's how viral it went. And of course, the engagement levels on these are off the charts because the couples want to win. I actually had one couple, the groom was so obsessed that his bride was going to win this competition. He was actually going on to Twitter and competition forums and stuff and bribing people to vote. He was paying them to vote. Fortunately, he never won. We did find out about this. He never won because the bride that won the competition that year, just so happened her father-in-law, who was at the wedding, was one of the Bay City Rollers. So if you know Bay City Rollers, famous group from the 70s and 80s, her father-in-law was what was his name now? Oh, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But so she went on the Bay City Rollers fan group, which is huge, believe it or not, and got all them to vote for her, and she had something like 7,000 votes at the end of the competition. So she won it clearly, and I was quite happy for her to win it because didn't feel quite like cheating the way the other guy was who was bribing. But that's how viral these things can get, you know. So it's a great promotion to do. Now we did it as a cross promotion for our portrait studio. If you just do weddings, it's, you know, you're maybe not getting any specific wedding clients out of it, but what you are going to get is a huge jump in awareness about you as a company in the local area, right? Because if you think about it, the best form of advertising is word of mouth. And if your wedding couples are sharing information about you, that's going to get to their friends who are all in that similar age who are about to get married. And it's a great way of doing it. So, but say we did it as a cross promotion for a portrait studio. And every person who voted was put in a prize draw to win a photo shoot. So here's the post that we would put up for this wedding of the year. This one way back in 2014. Just simple post describing what was going to happen. Anybody entered also had to fill in a form if they wanted to enter the prize draw for the portrait shoot, and we would ask them various questions that you can see there. And that worked great. Now, if you've got a portrait studio, you could actually be doing this kind of thing every month. We did a monthly prize draw every single month. It was a simple ad with a video. We used to have a video of a couple describing the experience they had at their their photo shoot, with a behind the scenes video showing Morag taking the pictures and stuff, and the couple coming back in and selecting the pictures. A nice little video we did. In the form that you get people to fill in for the prize draw, we used to collect their name, contact email and mobile. It was very important to get their mobile number, and a question if they'd had a photo shoot before and when they'd had it, and if they were doing a photo shoot, who would they feature in that shoot, because you wanted this data to help select who was going to win this prize draw. So we'd filter that info and chose our winners, and we used to do between 50 and 60 of these a month, and this kept our studio full, completely off the charts year round, right? And we were turning over 18, 20 grand a month on these particular promotions. So if you've got a portrait studio, I highly recommend doing this as well. We give them a free shoot, and they've got a desk frame. And I know people say, why do you give away free shoots? The reason you give away free shoots is because they're always going to spend money, right? We rarely get anybody that doesn't spend money, because when you contact them about the shoot, you tell them what it's going to cost. You're going to come back, you're going to see these photos. Our wall art starts from £250, right? So you're telling them already they're going to be spending money when they come back, but they're still excited that they've got a free shoot. So it's a great thing to do, and I highly recommend it. So that's our little lesson on marketing like a ninja. I hope that inspires you to investigate retargeting and how the Facebook pixel works a bit more, and you can use this in your photography business, whether you're just a wedding photographer or a portrait photographer or any type of photography. You can make great use of this. So we'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.